Good evening, I'm Jaylynne Smith interviewing Isaiah Gonzalez over the Ferris wheel of 1893, and I have a few questions for him. So, who thought of the Ferris wheel?
So, George Washington Gale Ferris Jr. had thought of the Ferris wheel, hence the name, the Ferris wheel, and he was a structural engineer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Why was it thought of?
Because he thought it was a good time to share his idea with the world and thought it was a good opportunity to bring his ideas to fruition.
So what was the Ferris wheel made out of?
The Ferris wheel was made out of steel.
How long did it take to build the Ferris wheel?
It took approximately 4 months or so to build it.
How many people did it take to build the Ferris wheel?
It would have been very difficult, nearly impossible for like 1 or 2 companies to do it, so they had hired numerous firms to build the wheel.
How tall was the Ferris wheel?
The wheel itself was 264 feet tall, while hoisted up on the posts, it was closer to 300.
So what else was significant about this wheel?
Well, the axle itself was a pretty big feat on its own. It weighed about nearly 90,000 pounds, and the cast iron spiders on the sides of the wheel themselves were 53,000.
So how tall was the axle of the wheel?
The axle was standing about 14 feet tall.
So how many cars did this wheel have?
The Ferris wheel held up to 36 cars.
Was there a specific word that they used for cars?
Back then, it was either interchangeable with cars or gondolas.
Okay. And how many people did a car or gondolas hold?
The cars held up to 60 people at max capacity.
Okay. Well, how many people rode the Ferris wheel?
Over 1.4 million people attended the Ferris wheel at the World Fair.
How long did it take for a ride?
Each rotation took about 10 minutes, and a ride was 2 rotations, with every other rotation stopping to load and unload passengers.
Do you know approximately how many times the wheel stopped?
6 times.
What happened to the wheel after the fair?
After the fair, it stood for about 5 or 6 months and then moved to Lincoln Park. And over the span of 86 days, it was moved finally on April 29th, 1894. And afterwards, it was destroyed by a demolition company that used 200 pounds of dynamite.
Thank you for answering my questions and taking your time out of the day to help us out.
Thank you for having me on your show.